Imagine you are sitting down to read a book. You read a sentence, maybe two. Then, without even thinking, your hand reaches for your phone. You check Instagram, scroll through Twitter, answer a text. 20 minutes later, you realize you haven't read a single page. Does this sound familiar? You might think you've lost your willpower or that you're getting lazy. But Johann Hari, the author of Stolen Focus, is here to tell you the truth. You didn't lose your focus. It was stolen from you. The story begins with Johann Hari's personal crisis. Like many of us, he felt his cognitive capacity shrinking. He could no longer experience the flow states he used to enjoy. Convinced that his brain was broken, he embarked on a radical experiment, a 3-month digital detox in Provincetown, completely cut off from the internet and smartphones. During those 3 months, his brain healed. He could think deeply, read for hours, and feel present. But the moment he returned to society, his focus shattered again. This failure led him on a 3-year journey across the globe to interview over 250 experts, from Silicon Valley dissidents to sleep scientists, to uncover the real reasons behind our collective attention crisis. Hari identifies 12 distinct causes, or thieves, that are raiding our attention. The most obvious culprit is big tech. Hari interviews engineers who help design the very algorithms that hook us. He reveals that apps are not neutral tools. They are designed like slot machines to exploit our psychological vulnerabilities. Their business model is surveillance capitalism. They profit only when we are distracted and scrolling, so they engineer infinite scrolls and likes to keep us trapped. But tech is just the tip of the iceberg. Hari dives deeper into systemic issues. He explores the collapse of reading and the rise of skimming. He investigates the link between our deteriorating diet and brain fog, showing how processed foods cause energy spikes and crashes that make focus impossible. He looks at pollution, stress, and the modern workplace. We are living in a culture of speed and exhaustion, where we are expected to answer emails at 10 p.m. and sleep less than 6 hours. Our brains simply cannot function under these conditions. Hari also touches on a heartbreaking aspect: childhood. He argues that we have destroyed childhood by stripping away free play. Modern children are constantly monitored and scheduled. Without the freedom to explore and get bored, they never learn how to regulate their own attention. Instead, we drug them for ADHD, treating the symptom rather than the sick environment. The core message of the book centers on cruel optimism. This is the idea that we tell individuals to solve systemic problems on their own. Telling someone to just delete the app or meditate more while trillion-dollar companies are spending billions to hack their brain is setting them up for failure. It's like telling someone in a burning building to just practice deep breathing. The conclusion is a call to arms. Hari argues that we need an attention rebellion, similar to the environmental movement. We need to fight for a 4-day workweek to reduce stress. We need to ban surveillance capitalism. We need to reclaim our minds, not just as individuals, but as a society. So if deleting Instagram isn't the final answer, what is? How do we start this attention rebellion? Let's use NotebookLM to analyze the specific policies and collective actions Hari proposes to win back our minds.
Let's be honest. Our ability to pay attention feels like it's collapsing. If you've ever felt like your focus is constantly being snatched away from you, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're diving into Johann Hari's investigation into why this is happening and, maybe more importantly, whether we can actually fight back and reclaim our own minds.
You know this feeling, right? You just pick up your phone for a second and boom, an hour's just gone, vanished. It's that awful sinking feeling that our time and our focus are being drained away. So what is really going on here? This feeling, this idea of being a stretched rubber band about to snap, is really at the heart of the whole thing. It's not just about losing time, it's about our minds feeling fractured. So, here's the big question. Is this just a personal failure, a lack of willpower on our part? Or are we the victims of a much larger crime? Well, that is the mystery we are about to unravel.
To understand this heist of our attention, author Johann Hari starts his journey in a very, very unlikely place. We're not talking about a tech lab in Silicon Valley. Nope. We're going to the home of the king of rock and roll, Graceland. So the story kicks off with his godson, who was living his entire life through a screen, just a constant blur of notifications and feeds. To try and break that spell, Hari decides to take him on a trip to Elvis's home, Graceland. You know, a place that's meant to be seen and felt in the real world.
And this is where the irony just smacks you in the face. They get there and they're handed iPads to act as tour guides, and suddenly nobody is actually looking at Elvis's famous jungle room with their own eyes. Nope, everyone is just staring down at digital pictures of it. The crisis wasn't just in his godson's head, it was literally all around.
And look, this isn't just a feeling. The data is, well, it's pretty stark. Researchers found that the average American teenager can only focus on a single task for 65 seconds. And office workers? We're not much better, averaging just 3 minutes. This isn't just a small dip. It feels like a fundamental rewiring of how we pay attention.
So what's the actual cost of all this distraction? It turns out there's a huge neurological price to pay for it, and it all starts by busting a myth that a lot of us really believe about ourselves.
We all love to think we're amazing multitaskers, right? But according to MIT neuroscientist Professor Earl Miller, the human brain can only consciously think about 1 or 2 things at a time. That's it. So what we call multitasking is actually just rapid juggling. We're just switching our attention back and forth really, really fast. And that juggling has a serious cost.
And that cost has a name. It's called the switch cost effect. Every single time you switch from one task to another, your brain has to reconfigure itself, and your performance just drops across the board. You get less efficient, you become less creative, and you start making way more mistakes.
Okay, but how big is this effect really? Get this, a study at Hewlett-Packard found that workers who were constantly interrupted by emails and calls saw their IQ drop by an average of 10 points. To put that into perspective, that is double the cognitive damage you see from smoking marijuana. The data is clear. Constant digital interruption is literally worse for your focus than being stoned.
So if our focus is being degraded this badly, we have to ask the big question. Is this just some kind of accident, or was it designed this way? Well, according to Hari's investigation and his interviews with Silicon Valley insiders, the answer is pretty unsettling. There is a motive behind all this madness.
I mean, that admission from one of Facebook's earliest investors is just chilling. The platforms we use every day were literally engineered to capture and hold our attention. It wasn't some unforeseen side effect. It was the entire point. And the engine driving this whole thing is a very specific economic model.
That model is called surveillance capitalism. And here's the key thing to understand. In this system, you aren't the customer. Your attention is the product, and it's being sold to the real customers, advertisers. These companies make more money the longer they can keep you scrolling, clicking, and watching. So how does it actually work? Well, it's a pretty simple and powerful 3-step loop. First, their algorithms track every single thing you do. Second, they use all that data to build this unbelievably detailed profile of you, learning your habits, your desires, your psychological triggers. And third, they use all that knowledge to hack your attention, keeping you hooked so they can make as much money as possible.
Okay, I know this all sounds incredibly bleak, but Hari argues that this is not a lost cause. This isn't about some personal failure or a tech takeover we can't stop. It's about recognizing that the problem is systemic, which means the solution has to be systemic too. He's actually calling for an attention movement. And the model for this is something we've actually done before. Think about it. When we discovered that lead in paint was harming children's brains, what did we do? We didn't ban all paint. That would be crazy. No, we band it together as a society and we ban the toxic ingredient, lead. The same logic applies here. We don't have to get rid of technology, but we can ban the toxic business model that's built to exploit our attention.
Just imagine for a second, if we change the business model to something like a subscription, the incentives completely flip. All of a sudden, the goal isn't to hack your attention for advertisers. The goal is to provide a genuinely valuable service to you, the paying customer. Technology could be designed not to addict us, but to actually help us focus and live better lives.
Now, as compelling as Johann Hari's argument is, it is absolutely not without its critics. So to get the full picture, we have to look at the counter-arguments and the controversies around his book. And believe me, it is a fierce debate.
So on one hand, you have critics who argue Hari lets us off the hook too easily, that he downplays personal responsibility. They're skeptical of big government solutions and point instead to individual habits, like deep work. Then there's his chapter on ADHD, which drew a lot of fire.
Some have called it ableist, accusing him of minimizing a very real neurodevelopmental condition. And finally, some reviewers point out that while his storytelling is great, these topics aren't exactly new and have been covered by plenty of other researchers for years.
And all of this leaves us right here, with the central question of the whole debate. Is our focus being actively stolen from us, or are we, on some level, giving it away? The truth, as it often is, probably lies somewhere in the middle, and it's a question we all have to face every single time we pick up our phones. Thanks for joining me for this